So, let's take a journey into the very heart of the soul, right into the final room of what the 16th century mystic Saint Teresa of Avila called the interior castle. And we're not talking about just little tweaks here. This is a complete metamorphosis, a total transformation of the self.
Teresa kicks things off with this really powerful image. You see, the journey through the soul's mansions doesn't end with a perfected caterpillar. It ends with the death of the butterfly. Right away, that tells you we're dealing with something radical, a total dissolving of the old self to make way for something completely new.
All right, so the first and most dramatic effect of this whole transformation, it's a complete, total shift away from the self. And you can really see the stark contrast here. On the one hand, you have the soul that's still kind of worried about its own spiritual report card, its glory, its good feelings. But on the other side, it enters what Teresa calls a strange oblivion. It gets so focused on God's honor that its own existence just barely registers. It literally no longer recognizes itself.
Now, it's really important to get this right. This self-forgetfulness isn't about neglecting basic things like eating or drinking. Teresa is super clear on that. No, this is a fundamental rewiring of your identity, where your own interests, your life, your reputation, they become so secondary that you just forget about them. Okay, so this brings us to what's probably the toughest idea to wrap your head around in this whole thing. The idea that a desire for suffering can somehow lead to profound peace.
I know, it sounds like a complete contradiction, right? How on earth can wanting to suffer possibly bring you joy and calm? Well, Teresa lays out this very specific kind of spiritual logic that pretty much flips our normal expectations on their head.
So here's how it works. It kind of breaks down into 3 steps. First, the soul's one and only desire is for God's will to be done. So when suffering shows up, it's just seen as part of that divine plan. Instead of causing torment, it brings this great interior joy. And this isn't some selfish state. It actually expands outward, producing this deep, empathetic grief for others who are in trouble and a powerful desire to help them out.
And Teresa explains this beautifully. See, in earlier stages, the soul might have felt this agonizing, torturous desire to die just to escape the world. But now, that's been swapped out. The new desire is to suffer, but only if it brings even a little honor to God. It's seen as a divine gift, replacing a former agony with a whole new purpose.
Now, you might be thinking that this deep, inner state would lead to a pretty passive, withdrawn kind of life, but Teresa says no, it's the exact opposite. This inner peace actually fuels an incredibly powerful desire for outward action.
And she does this using that famous story of the 2 sisters, Mary, who sits in quiet contemplation, and Martha, who's busy with active service. In this final mansion, Teresa says you can't just be Mary, you have to be both. Contemplation and action become 2 sides of the very same coin.
So yeah, passive? Not at all. This inner state actually produces these really tangible results, a constant impulse that drives the soul outward. There's this need to praise God, a fervent desire to serve and help others, and, like we saw, even a longing to suffer for a purpose. At the end of the day, as Teresa says, the whole point of all this interior prayer is simply good works. So everything we've talked about, the self-forgetfulness, the drive to act, it's all built on one foundational experience, a deep, unshakable peace.
And for Teresa, this is a huge deal. The peace that's felt here is so profound that she believes it cannot be a deception. It comes with a settled conviction, a feeling of absolute certainty that it comes directly from God. There's just no room for doubt.
I just love this metaphor. This transformation happening inside the soul, it happens quietly, without any noise or fanfare. It's like the construction of Solomon's temple, a sacred space being built in profound silence. The work is divine, and it's done in peace.
And this, right here, is the final destination of that long, long journey. After all the struggles, all the floods and tempests of the spiritual life, the soul, just like Noah's dove, finally finds firm, solid ground. It has found a lasting peace that the chaos of the world just can't touch anymore.
So, Teresa of Avila described the soul as an interior castle with all these different mansions, and reaching this final room seems to involve a complete and total surrender. It really leaves us with this one big question to chew on. If your self is a castle, what does it truly mean to give away the keys?